for somebody who has never heard of it, what is it all about when you're talking about sexual gender-based violence?
Sexual and gender-based violence is that harm or violence that is perpetrated to another person, may it be a man or a woman, using a physical connotation and which also has a sexual connotation. In sexual gender-based violence, you'll have things to do like rape, you have like defilement, marital sex. That's where somebody uses their sexuality actually to cause harm to another person.
So it means even if somebody is married, legally so, they can also fall victim of sexual gender-based violence?
Yes, we have what we call marital rape.
How does it occur? How do you then bring it out clearly?
You know, the definition of sex is supposed to be two consenting adults. So the moment you have it and the other person has not consented, it becomes rape.
Hello and welcome back to the Crimeshield podcast, where we keep it safety and security every day. And today, this is the first episode of season 2 of the Crimeshield podcast. We are hosted at Wojo Shared Office Spaces. A big shout out and thanks to Wojo for having us here. Today's topic is none other than, different approach in safety and security. We're going to talk about sexual gender-based violence. It's a very intense issue. And at some point in Kenya in the year 2020, 2021, it was considered somehow an epidemic, for lack of a better word. And to help me go through that topic is none other than Madam Sicily, who will tell us more about herself. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, Madam Sicily.
Hello to you, Kingsley.
Yes, karibu sana. Probably you can just introduce yourself and tell us about you and what really inspired you into venturing into, the field of sexual gender-based violence and what you do.
Thank you very much for having me here. As you have rightly put, my name is Sicily Gatiti, CPP, PSP, CP, that's a Commissioner of Police. Currently, I'm the Dean of Studies at the National Police Leadership Academy. And I've been a police officer for now 20 years.
Wow. You're inspiring many young girls.
Thank you. So I joined police in the year 2003. But my background is that I'm a trained teacher by profession. Then I did a master's in project planning and management from the University of Nairobi in 2012. I have another master's in leadership and security from Kenyatta University in 2016. So for a very long time, I've found myself one way or the other in a training institution. I went to Kiganjo as a trainer in the year 2007, and I left in 2014. I'm now back to training again. It feels good to be there, because in training is where you are able to impart knowledge, skills, competencies, and attitudes that are required for any person to change the world. And during that period is when I was able to be among the first people through ECTAP program to be trained as a trainer on sexual and gender-based violence. And I actually took around 10 classes from both I did in Kenya Police College then in GSU and APTC. Those were the names that time. So I was able to train a group of police officers for various reasons, because sexual and gender-based violence had actually become a pandemic in Kenya. And sexual and gender-based violence happens in secluded places. So witnesses are normally not very forthcoming. And even if they are witnesses, sometimes you realize that the forensic expert evidence is normally tampered with. So for you to have a solid case in court, you require people who are competent, well-trained, know how to maintain the chain of custody up to the legal finish. So that's how I found myself in sexual and gender-based violence. And I've been able to undertake several other courses, including from UN, US, and many local courses on the same. So I can say that it is actually a field that requires a lot of even research, so that we understand why do these people commit such heinous crimes against fellow human beings.
It is amazing, a wealth of experience, all those titles and certifications. To you out there, you've seen a lady who is having all this certifications, and just the passion and purpose behind all this, and just trying to show you that it's possible for you also to emulate her. And I can tell you for sure there are many ladies out there who are really inspired seeing women in places like yours, and I'm very grateful to have you here. And just expounding into this topic, as you rightly put it, it's an area which is very sensitive, and people don't really want to share, shed light on matters to do with sexual gender-based violence. So probably you can just define it to us and let us, understand it. For somebody who has never heard of it, what is it? What is it all about when you're talking about sexual gender-based violence?
Okay, we can say that on a layman terms, sexual and gender-based violence is that harm or violence that is perpetrated to another person, may it be a man or a woman, using a physical connotation, and which also has a sexual connotation. That's where now the difference between sexual and the normal gender-based violence comes in. Because in sexual gender-based violence, you'll have things to do like rape, you'll have like defilement, marital sex. That's where somebody uses their sexuality actually to cause harm to another person.
So it means even if somebody is married, legally so, they can also fall victim of sexual gender-based violence.
Yes, we have what we call marital rape.
Wow. How does it occur? How do you then bring it out?
The definition of sex is supposed to be two consenting adults. So the moment you have it and the other person has not consented, it becomes rape. So if it is done within a marriage institution, then it is marital rape. Wow. Yes.
So you're forcing yourself onto that act. So that is
the other spouse.
And does it only affect women, or is it also affecting men?
No. It affects both the genders. That's why we are saying sexual gender-based violence. We have seen, when you look at the Sexual Offences Act of 2006, you realize that we also have women are being taken to court for raping men. So it is not a matter of one gender. That's why we are saying it is a gender issue, because either gender is affected. But most of the time, from the statistics, what we see most is being reported about women and girls. But there is sodomy, for example, which is also a sexual violation of a male person. So it affects both the genders, only that one of the gender is more susceptible than the other, simply because of maybe their biological, physique, and the like. Yeah.
So we can rightly say that it is a sphere where any person can fall victim.
Of course.
Not only women, but even men.
Any person can be a victim or a survivor of sexual gender-based violence, depending on the person who has suffered the crime, and also depending on... I can say that both suffer, but the only challenge is that, as I've said, women and girls are maybe very vocal. They are able to report.
They speak out.
Yeah, they speak out. For the men, it's a bit difficult, because our men are trained that they are supposed to be the lions, supposed to be the protectors. How do they even come to say that I was violated? It is not traditional. It's people will say you are weakly, so men shy away. But it happens to them in equal measure, but they don't come out as clearly as the girls and the women. Yeah.
In your experience, what would you say is the main cause of, people being susceptible to sexual gender-based violence? And also, in the same breath, you can tell us why is it difficult for people to speak up, especially men?
There are various causes ranging from traditions. Some traditions, for example, we have girls being married off when they are young, early marriages. Yeah. Other times you hear there are some communities which have, when a girl conceives, they do the abortions. Yes. Sometimes it can be a connotation of religion. Like now we have seen mushrooming of various religions, which we do not have facts of what they are doing. They encourage some of these things. So the reasons are varied. Others is at workplace, for example, somebody wants a promotion. So you'll probably offer yourself so that you are promoted. Some other people is just general sexual harassment, so that maybe you want to cajole this person to do something against their will, and you are using that power. Maybe you are in a seat of authority and you want to have it. So there are many, many, many varied results. Others take it as like, for example, a livelihood, like the commercial sex workers. Yes, they have taken themselves there, but sometimes they are also violated.
A sexual, commercial sex worker?
Yes, they are violated, seriously violated. Yes, people go against their agreement, though it is a crime in Kenya.
Yes.
It's a very serious crime in Kenya. But also, they also claim they are violated. So there are varied reasons. You cannot tag and say this is a particular reason why this person committed this particular kind of offense. Okay. And I'll say again, for the reasons why men, for example, find it difficult to report, it's the way we were brought up. From a home perspective, we know the man to be the provider, the one who provides security, the one who is supposed to ensure that everybody is safe. So if the same man who is supposed to provide security cannot provide security for themselves, how will they even talk? And they come to a police station, and they say, oh, this and this happened. They find it very difficult. And it is so depressing to them, because the moment they are not able to speak up, they cannot be helped, and then they will go back to depression. Others will look for coping mechanism like alcoholism, and that's how we are able now to lose very many young men or men, because simply they cannot talk, so you cannot know what is actually happening to their lives. So it becomes a very serious problem, and we are just saying it is important for everybody to speak up, even if it is just saying it to only one person whom you trust. That way you have lifted off the burden, and then you can be shown how to cope, and then you can be taken even for counseling and the like, and the hospital, so that at least you are returned back to society. Because some, because of what they have undergone through, they now become again perpetrators to revenge what happened to them.
Okay, so it's also an opportunity for somebody to take advantage and use it as, an igniter of crime.
Yes, because now they are saying this happened to me, then it must happen to another person. So if they are not helped in time, it's like a waiting bomb, which can explode in whatever direction. They can go to drugs, they can lure other people to the same crimes, and then they become social misfit. So it's a continuum of other small problems that can culminate from that.
So like from your experience, and you've rightly put it, that sometimes people don't speak up, and especially men, and it transcends to now becoming a security concern. So they can either inflict harm to themselves or also inflict harm to other people. In my thinking, I feel also, of course, most people can say, the heightened cost of living and poverty can also cause people to get into situations that can lead them into gender-based violence. I don't know if I'm right, because some people say that, hey, like I was watching something on online, and it was talking about how, it happens with people that, you relate with. It doesn't come from somebody from the outside. So you find that probably the spouse in the house probably has been laid off from work, and they do not have, livelihoods. So because of that inferiority complex, they feel they need to dominate, as you said, that the man is supposed to be the provider. At the end of the day, you find that, for lack of a better word, they become violent to their spouse, or vice versa. So I really agree to the point that it can affect anybody, in their own phases of life. What about the impact? What impact does it have to the homes when we're talking about people who are victims and are still in the dwelling homes?
Talking about the impact, and before I reach there, I want to talk about the research that was done in 2020 and 2021 during COVID time. Most of the people lost their jobs. And that is the time Kenya recorded a very high percentage of sexual gender-based violence and domestic violence. It went very high because these people are always in the houses. They are desperate. There is no money. There is no source of livelihood. And the only person who is next to you is your spouse. So there was a lot of GBV that was happening during that period. And now talking about impact, there is so much impact. For example, of course, the first one is assault. When somebody is assaulted, of course, they will have injuries. So Then next, you will find that homes will break, for example, separation. Sometimes the children may be affected because some may not be able to go to school. Sometimes, if it is very serious, you will have people die. We have seen people who have died. If it is a sexual violation, we will have unwanted pregnancies. We will have sexually transmitted infections. Some will have illegal abortions. It is a myriad of impact to the society. Yes.
So how can we then prevent this, SGBV? How can we be able to prevent this, and how can we, make it something that people know and people can talk about and reach out for help?
There are so many ways of prevention, and one of them is like creating awareness, like we are doing today. We are able to say that, for example, when you subject a young girl to FGM, that is wrong. And the young girls are subjected by their mothers, their fathers, who do not know the impact later in life. So one thing is to create awareness. Number two is to train. For example, the caregivers and the persons who are in authority. For example, the police officers, the forensic expert, the lawyers, the doctors, the nurses, CSOs, so that they speak up. Everybody will be involved. They need to be trained, including the ODPP, whereby the offenses will pass through, and the magistrate. They need to be trained so that they know when this violation happens, this is what is supposed to happen. Another thing that we can leverage on is ensuring that we bring both men, boys, and girls and women on this discussion, because we know these violations are happening, and a bigger percentage is happening on our girls and women. And we know the perpetrators, majority, I'm not saying all of them, majority are certain gender. So the moment we are talking about this sexual gender-based violence, leaving the boys, leaving the men out, we are not going to win this war. For example, I was in a seminar whereby they were telling us FGM in some communities is perpetrated by women.
They are the ones who champion it.
They are the ones who champion it. They are the ones who say, my son cannot marry so and so, she is not circumcised. So what an SSO did, they brought the men on board and they trained these women and told them, the moment you suspect your girl to that, the first thing is they drop out from school, because now they are ripe for marriage. So they cannot continue. And when you look at maternal health of the children and the reproduction, mostly it is the women who champion for the well-being of the children. They are the people who make decisions. Most of the time, they are the ones who make decisions, the number of children they want, the nutrition that they are going to give their children. So if this child dropped from school in class 6, she does not have such a capacity. And then she is susceptible again to fistula when she is giving birth. Remember that damage that was caused to that sexual organ cannot normally push the baby. So she is likely to suffer more diseases and infections. So when these men are brought on board, they are shown real videos of women who are suffering because of that, they change their mind. So bringing the men on board is the first entry point to winning this war, because they'll be able to say, I'll not subject my girl to that. I'll not allow my boy to marry another age. I'll not allow my girl, if she becomes pregnant, to do an abortion. So now you change their mind. And as you said, a man has a very big portion and authority in the house. If they say this will not be done, of course the women will take it as law. But as long as the men are not brought to the discussion, we will be doing zero work.
I saw somebody saying online that probably due to the kind of structure that we have, especially in the education sector, you find that in the primary school, most schools are mixed. And then now when you're going to high school, most of the high schools are, either boys' schools or girls' school. And then now they again mix and meet up in the universities. And in that conversation, I saw that they were highlighting that it could be one of the reasons why we really have that disconnect in communication, and just trying to see how you're able to communicate to the other gender. So you find that in the past, people used to draft letters and you have to wait, there's that patience, and you're able to really, communicate, even if at all it takes time. But now this breakdown of communication, in the sense that We have people in primary where you have a desk mate or a friend who is of the opposite sex. You know how to take care of them in the sense that you respect them and give them the kind of attention that they require in respect to just communication and relations. Then you have that disconnect. Now you're going into boys' schools and girls' schools. Could that also be something that can really put in as one of the causes, the disconnect in communication, and that the structure of education right now? Can it be a cause?
Maybe it could, but I think a proper research needs to be done. And I think that's why the government has returned back to Harambee schools, whereby people are going to day schools and they come back. Most of the day schools, and I think all of them, they are mixed. Except the old schools where you have mango boys, I don't know what girls. But basically we are saying, yeah, it is important during development for the boys to understand the girls and the girls to understand the boys. Because these are the people whom we are looking up to later in life to become our leaders, to become our parents. So from that young age, they needed to talk to one another and understand one another. But I also think the ministry is also doing a good job, especially when it comes to sporting, athletics. They always find the time to mix, and even the congresses. So, and when you look at the teaching fraternity is both genders in all the schools. So the opportunities are there. Even though you are in a school, a girls' school, for example, for maybe 3 months, of course you will go to a football club or a match and a drama, and you'll mix with those people. So the opportunities are there. Even when they are coming back home, they still mix. But it is something that requires to be researched on. And also, we also need to ask ourselves, do you also want to allude that that specific group is the one that is causing sexual gender-based violence? The answer would be no. The answer would be no. So it is a discussion that needs to be taken to the next level. But what I know is that the perpetrators of sexual gender-based violence are people, actually they are people who are known to the victims most of the times, unless it is gang rape, and it is very rare. When you find somebody is just pouncing on you and you don't know them, it's very, very rare occurrence. Most of the victims know they are perpetrators.
This conversation is very heated up, and it's a point of concern to all of us just to realize how important it is for us to be aware of sexual gender-based violence. And it can happen to anyone. It is very, very sad to feel that, just to witness and see, children out there being molested or people fighting, just sexual gender-based violence is something that we have a responsibility as the community to come and shed a light on. And feel free to share your comments and how you've been able to, reach out. If you haven't, you're able to, just tell us about your feeling and your thoughts about this topic on sexual gender-based violence. So, Madam Sicily, we were talking about the school setup, and we said that it is just not attributed to, separating these children in secondary school, and then they end up meeting up because they meet up during sports and all that. And you also mentioned that it's a topic that needs to be researched on, and at the end of the day, clarity to be sought out for. And also just to mention that you said government has also taken the initiative of coming up with these programs. In my opinion, I feel that, yes, it's a subject that people are really talking about, but we need to take action. So my question would be, in case somebody is a victim, how would you advise them to go about, reporting? How the whole cycle until probably it is probably mitigated, or there's a way that they can get a solution out of it?
Yeah, reporting is very important. And you realize that there are different mechanisms of reporting that are provided for in the law. For example, if it is within the family level, the child or whoever is being molested can report to that person who it's a confidant. If it is a father molesting a child, you can confide in a mother, and then the mother will know what to do. Because the child on their own cannot go to a police station. They may not even know where the police station is. Sometimes you realize that maybe it is a caregiver who is molesting these people. So depending on the situation or the place where the offense is being committed, the report will be reported to different people first. For example, you realize that somebody can go straight to the police station. They understand what happened to them. If they are very young, they can report to caregivers, including children officers. Sometimes you realize that in the home setup, sometimes the mothers may condone, and they'll say, if you make my husband go to jail, I will disown you. So this child has no option other than maybe to report to the school, the teachers, or maybe a children officer, because now the home is very toxic for them. So depending on where it is, you'll start from there. Then when now it reaches the police station, it is taken down as a report. And once it is now reported, the in charge of that particular police station will give a trained police officer to investigate. And now that is where the journey begins. Because it is this police officer will be able to fill for you the P3 form, and then they'll be able to take you to the hospital. The doctor will fill the hospital, they will do the analysis, and they look at you, and they'll be able to say to what extent that violation took place. Then the police officer will be able to prepare their case files and take them to the ODPP so that the appropriate charges can be taken there. But sometimes you realize that while all this is happening, it is important, for example, if the person who was a victim is in a toxic environment, they are removed from that environment, because continuously staying in that environment may actually compromise the quality of the case or even the evidence, because they might sometimes be told that drop the case. Other times we see people coming and saying, we want to talk out of court, those things may come. And the child may not have a lot of defense mechanism. They are very vulnerable. So it is important to remove those people. So there are some community CSOs which have built safe houses where such victims are kept until the process of the court is completely finished, so that they do not return to that particular toxic environment. So once the case starts in court, for example, if it is the person who was violated is a minor, there is a mechanism to ensure that this person is not revealed, so that we avoid re-victimization, so that it is done in camera. Now, it's not an open court where anybody can walk. So it is only maybe the child and the police officer, the magistrate, and maybe the witness or wherever it is. So that is a way to prevent re-victimization and ensuring this child will speak without bothering who is who, because they are not able to see anybody. So after that, when a sentence has been prevented for the perpetrator, they are taken to jail. But during the time this victim is in the same house, they are taken through counseling. They are being helped medically in case of any problems. For example, if it was defilement or rape, they are given post-exposure prophylaxis to prevent them from acquiring HIV and AIDS. And you realize that the police, for example, have initiated the polycare, which is one approach whereby once we have a survivor, instead of you coming to a police station, you tell the police what happened. You go to a lawyer, you tell them. You go to a doctor, you tell them. You go to court, you repeat the same. So this is an approach whereby everybody is brought on board. The lawyers, the magistrate, the police officers, the children officers, the welfare officers, everybody who has an interest.
So it's a one-stop shop.
It's a one-stop shop. So when they narrate their story, everybody takes what is important for them.
So they only have to do it once.
They have only to do it once. Wow. And the beauty is that the more somebody keeps on talking about it, the more it re-victimizes this person. And they start seeing like, after all, it is okay. Because now every time I have to repeat, this happened, it is a very bad approach. But we hope that the same one stop will be replicated in the 47 counties, so that justice will be found faster, and people will be able to speak up, and it will become better for people because they'll be able to access all these services in one roof. Yeah, that's like a supermarket for justice.
Amazing. There's so much that we can discuss about this topic, but however, I wanted to highlight something else on, people say, it's a common norm. We have made this social vice a common thing until it is becoming normal, which is very wrong. So you find that, let's say that it's a couple and, probably one of them is a victim. And, they open up to a friend, let's say. So person X tells person Y that I'm a victim of sexual gender-based violence in my own home. And, when that person comes in to intervene in their own unique way, that confident, after some time, they end up, seeing again these people together. So, the perception of marriage and how people look at it, and, being victimized in the sense that you're stepping out of marriage, and, things like, Kenyans normally say that, watu wenye wanashare duve, huwezi ingililia story yao. Yeah. So, because at the end of the day, utaona pamoja, and it's probably somebody suffering in silence. And I'm made to understand also that most of these victims, they don't have really visible, some victims don't have these visible wounds or cuts, or, most of the trauma is emotionally. And, that is where, people make decisions, very lethal decisions. Some even end up being suicidal simply because they have tried to open up, but by them opening up, they end up being victimized. So you find that there's some stigma or some kind of approach when you're looking at people who have ended up in divorce, some people who have ended up being, so somebody feels like, I just have to stick in this marriage because, how will other people view me? How will the parents view me? How will my friends view me? And your approach on that probably will shed a light on how people need to open up to this particular topic.
Thank you very much for that question. One thing that I would say is that the buck stops in a person.
Okay.
The first thing is to love yourself. You ask yourself, is this what I want?
Mm-hmm.
And you ask yourself, what are the likely consequences of this, of whatever I'm undergoing?
Mm-hmm.
Because as you're writing food, SGBV can be physical, emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So the emotional is even worse because there is no evidence.
Yeah.
You cannot prove.
Mm-hmm.
So it requires somebody who is very well empowered to make a decision to walk out once and for all. Because the moment you continue staying there, it will leave the emotional part and become physical. And the emotional part, if it is not well addressed, you will become depressed. You will become depressed and you lose it completely. So the best thing is to ask yourself whether you really want it to be that toxic relationship. And remember, when it is toxic, you are not able to grow. You are not even able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You are not able to develop yourself because you'll always be thinking in domestic violence. We talk about the cycle.
Yes.
Domestic violence, there is honeymoon, the peace normalize, and very you start fighting, then they apologize, they come back. That violence, the only way to cut it out is to one person to make a decision and walk out. And completely stay alone, because if this person is not willing to change and you have tried your best, you have gone to a pastor, they have not helped, you have talked to a psychologist, they are not helping, their parents have not helped anything, what makes you think you will change them? It is mission impossible. Just love yourself enough. Tell them it was good when the sign was up. So let us part ways and you become good friends. I've seen a lot of people doing cooperating nowadays, and they're in very healthy relationships as single persons, other than staying in a toxic relationship to an extent that you die. I remember you saw the lady who was killed in Nigeria, a very prominent lady, a pastor. They used to come with their husband driving Mercedes-Benz. But the same man killed that woman.
They're called picture perfect marriages.
Yes. And everybody wanted to be like them. But behind the scene, the woman was suffering. Wow. So why would you lose your life because of living together with somebody? It is God wanted people to be together. But he says again, if two do not understand each other, they cannot work together. So if you cannot talk together, it's always good to give each other a break and then also look for somebody who can counsel you so that you can understand. Sometimes you realize that it is not just women who are not, or the spouses who are not working. Even some of these people who are working are in a very toxic relationship. So it is nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with a personal attitude and how a person values the other spouse. It has nothing to do with whether one is working or not. No. Why is it that in the rural areas, people are living in harmony and they have nothing? And they just go to the farm, have their maize and beans, and they cook and they're happy.
It's something that I read, and it's called the trauma bonding. So where you find that a victim always finds himself or herself back to the captor. How can they work their way out of that, as you're putting it? So, you find that this particular victim, through trauma bonding, they find it highly unlikely for them to leave that person. So they go for some time, and then they are back, and then they go, and then they are back. How can people who are victim of this trauma bonding help themselves through your experience?
So the first thing is what you are saying is they seek professional help. Like when you talk to a professional counselor, they'll be able to take you through that journey, and they will be able to assist you even to overcome that trauma bonding. Because the person takes advantage of that short distance you have been away. They know you have not been helped, so you're still craving to come back. But if you have somebody who is taking you, you are able even to show them the messages, what they are saying, they tell you, respond like this, don't do this. It becomes very easy for you now to understand, even to understand yourself. Because these people normally is that they have lost touch of whom they are. They have lost touch of why they exist. So they only depend on this particular person. So the moment that somebody comes in their life and tells them you are valuable, you are good, you can do this, you are very beautiful, now they become self-reassured. And now they become aware of what else they can do for themselves away from this person. Yep.
So probably also through your experience, how does the legal framework work around such cases? Do we get people getting convicted because they are perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence?
Yeah, people there's a lot of convictions taking place in this country. When you read the Sexual Offences Act of 2006, it has even gone ahead to give the ages. For example, if you defile a child below, I think, is it 12 years, it is for life. 15 years, you get 20 years and the like. So the sexual offences of this country is very elaborate and it's working very well. The only challenge, as we said, is that sometimes people do not report these offences. And even when they are reported, sometimes the evidence that is brought is beyond forensic analysis. Remember, for example, if it is a violation of a child, the law is very clear. We do not require corroboration of that evidence. But of course, the magistrate will want to prove, the ODPP want to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that this case actually happened. And because this is an offense that happens in the private, there are no witnesses. The only sure witness is a forensic witness. That analysis of the clothes, that's analysis of the semen, of the blood, of the hymen, that is the most important. So if it has been tampered with, then that is a loophole to that case. So basically, the current structure in Kenya is that all these players who are working around SGBV are being trained together, especially the police, the magistrate, the ODPP, the CSOs, and to some extent, so that they understand from the very fast responder what is expected of them. If it is a P3 form, how is it supposed to be filled? So that at the end of the day, it will be able for us to get a conviction. Because the problem had been the ODPP do it their way, the police do it their way, the magistrate do it their way. So there was no one approach. Yeah. But now they have standardized, including those forms. They are undertaking joint trainings so that they understand and they are able. And again, during the at the station levels, there is what we call court users committees. In that committee, it is a very good opportunity. The ODPP will tell the police, your cases are like this, I want you to rectify. The police will tell the magistrate, I brought this case, you give this person a board. So that is a conversation that happens every month, and it on board their community workers also. We have the communities, representative of the community, we have the children department, we have the prisons, everybody who is handling anything to do with the justice system at that level. So they talk in one voice and say, this case, we are going to approach it like this. And we have seen a lot of that working together, that multi-agency is a kind of an approach. It is really helping, though there is so much to be done. So much, because like some flank counties, like Turkana, like Wajir, where you have to walk very many kilometers to get help. So what we are talking about, the forensic evidence would already be spoiled. You know, Ajay is very hot, same as Turkana. So those are challenges which are environmental, but I think the government is working towards ensuring that maybe those people also have those services nearer, because like in every hospital now in Kenya, whether it is a level 2 or a dispensary, somebody can actually fill for you the P3 form.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and talking about the gaps that are there, there's also, you know, I talked about the emotional trauma.
Yes.
You know, and we are talking about signing off P3 and things like that. So if somebody is undergoing that kind of emotional trauma, how can we then quantify that, leveraging the kind of experts, like something that probably can even help the government in being able to sort out these issues? So somebody is a victim of SGBV and probably there's no bodily harm. You know, there's no, you know, physical evidence that can be adduced to court to support the case. The trauma is mental.
Yeah.
How can these people then quantify that? Is there a form where a psychologist can or psychiatrists can feel? How does it work?
I may not talk for them because I'm not a psychologist, but what I know is that the government has psychologists deployed in various institutions, including hospitals, including some police department. So, but like in the those frontier counties, I'm not sure. But of course, somebody will get help once they say they have a problem. Because now we are knowing that even with the technology, it's not a must you go to and face somebody face to face. You can say, I have this problem, and you are given a number of a referral person who can be calling you and then following up your case and talking to you. So all is not lost. We can leverage on technology where distance is a problem, but we are saying also that that's another area that requires the government to put a lot of effort, because you have seen people are really suffering, as you say, mentally, and some may not even know where to look for help. But for those who are able to look for help, they have been assisted. So it also requires also situation awareness, so that people know, in case of this problem, I can talk to so-and-so, they can help me. But I hope the psychologists will speak on that, because that is their area. Yeah, I don't want to preempt what they do. I don't know.
And I think we'll surely continue this conversation. But before we really wind up, there's one other aspect of this kind of violence, SGBV, but now on the cyberspace, where we have people body shaming, we have people, you know, doing all sort of nasty things online.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing about the emotional aspect, because we've seen people being defamed online or on social media. And at the end of the day, they get, you know, people with ulterior motives coming into their inboxes and getting threatened in their life. And it really tortures them and traumatizes them.
True.
So I feel that also is an aspect, other than cyber crimes, there are people who also fall victim of SGBV, but online.
Yeah, it is there. And if you remember very well, Kenya has passed a law on that.
Yes.
So if you are a victim, you can actually go to the nearest police station, report, show those messages, and this year will take over that case. We have seen people who have been taken to court, and actually they are paid for shaming people. Yeah, so it's just what I'm saying. It starts with awareness creation. That law was passed. How many Kenyans know about it? That is where it starts. Because you can have so many policies, so many regulations, but the victims, they don't know where to get help. So I think that is an opportunity for people to be... I think the once Parliament make laws, I also think this country needed to have a certain office that just keeps on telling Kenyans, this one has been passed, these are your rights, you know? Like now we have the anti-FGM, we have the Prevention Against Domestic Violence, we have the Sexual Offences Act, we have the anti-trafficking. All these laws affect human beings. But ask people in the village, they do not know. So we have a myriad of laws, we are suffering, and we are not able to leverage on that unless you come maybe to Nairobi or you are a scholar. Many people may not know those laws exist. So the only gap is that the legislators do their work very well. As the police will do our work, the doctors will do their work. But now making sure the Kenyans know and understand this law, I think that is where the country now needed to leverage, especially on the ICT, because those things can be brought in a very friendly manner, and then they can be shared, maybe the ICT or the Huduma Center. Maybe they can be having, every week we'll talk about, for example, SOA, or a month, and we do everything about SOA, and it is even, we can even leverage on the vernacular speaking TV stations, because those crimes, some of them happen where people do not know any other language apart from their own language. So if they do not even know what the law says because it is in English, so they will not even know there is such a law to start with, so they will not even seek for help. So I think translating some of these laws into other languages, like especially the laws that affect the human beings, the safety and security of a person, that is sexual gender-based violence, domestic violence, matrimonial laws, those laws that are very specific to individuals. If we can have a way of translating them or having them maybe being aired in the vernacular stations, maybe a big number of people may understand and they may know their rights, and they'll be able to seek help when a violation happens.
Wow. Thank you so much, Madam Sicily. And I'm sure we'll have this conversation over and over again. I just want you to, inspire people out there. There's somebody who probably is looking up and is saying, I just want to emulate what Madam Sicily is, just briefly, and tell them, what they can do, and especially ladies and girls, probably.
Okay, thank you very much. What I would want to say is that everybody has unique talent and potential. You just need to realize that in your own sphere, you can influence something small. Don't look at the bigger picture. Just look at whom within your vicinity can you influence. And I normally tell people that the road to success is always under construction.
True.
You keep on building and building and building, and that's how you become successful. It becomes very difficult when we see the young people of today. They have been employed today. They want to drive Mercedes. They want to have, Lamborghini and the like. It does not work like that.
Yeah.
It takes time, patience, sacrifice, determination, handwork, and focus. Just do the right thing at the right time with the right people, with the right intention, and you'll be there.
Wow. What an amazing way to end the show. Crimeshield fans, put down in the comments and just share your thoughts on this topic, because this is something that people don't openly talk about. And at the end of the day, we really want to get this information by impacting you positively through security. So for you out there who is going through any trauma or is a victim, share and tell a friend. Madam Sicily has brought it up very clearly. And you cannot get it anywhere else apart from the Crimeshield podcast. So for you out there, put it down in the comments. Remember to share, like, and subscribe, and keep it Crimeshield. See you next time.